Picture this, Steve Ditko gets fired as Marvel's Spider-Man artist and they bring in this new guy, John Romita Sr. For a while, he tries to emulate Steve Ditko's design of the Spider-Man costume. It's a bit cleaner and has a little bit of Romita's flair, but it isn't fully his. Then, just as the swinging 70s are coming to a close, he tosses Ditko's design to the wayside and evolves it into this. This design did first appear in the 70s, but it was at its peak in the 90s, which is why I will address it as such. John Romita's 90s Spidey was iconic and laid the foundation for what Spider-Man designs look like today. I mean, I think it's very telling that the brand new day suit still looks a lot like this one. That's a true testament to how timeless the Spider-Man costume really is. I know a lot of people prefer Romita's older design, and it's definitely more iconic and classic, but recently I've grown a fondness for this one. The bigger eyes and different spider symbol add a nice twist to Romita's earlier work. But you're here to see me make the dang thing, so I will. I've made one other red and blue classic suit, but it hasn't exactly aged like fine wine. I mean, that was 15, what are you gonna do? But I've made a lot of suits since then, and I've gained a lot of experience as an amateur suit crafter. I've learned how to work with fabric, the importance of proportional formatting, and of course, the fastest way to get arthritis, puff paint. So this time, I want to apply everything I've learned since that old thing to a brand new classic suit, based on John Romita's art from the 90s. So without further ado, let's get into my process. I began by grabbing a red sweater and drawing the lines of my Spider-Man formatting on top. I made sure to pay very close attention to the way Romita drew the red patterns, but I also made sure to accommodate for my stature. Making the red sections shaped properly to accent your body type is very important. If you're Labubu size like me, the belt should be a little higher up to give the appearance of longer legs. I didn't pay much attention to that on my first suit, and it shows. The belt was much lower and it looked very awkward. It seemed like my torso was super long and my legs weren't. It looked disproportionate. I learned about this from Tom Holland's Spider-Man suits. Hate their designs all you want, but you can't deny they were built around Tom's body very well. So I applied this to my suit, which turned out looking very nice. I think I may have overcorrected just a smidge, but it still looks really good. After that, it was time to cut out the red sections and glue them onto my blue sweater. After a long gluing session, the parts were together, and I must admit the suit was looking real nice so far, even without the webbing pattern. I decided to wait until later for the web pattern, and instead focus on the back logo first. I wanted to get it out of the way since it was one of the parts I was most afraid of tackling. Cutting fabric can be annoying, and if I mess up, I have to start all over again. So once more, I paid very close attention to how the back logo was drawn in the comic art, and thankfully, got something that looks pretty dang accurate. Nice. I placed the suit on my mannequin and glued on the spider. Pretty simple process. Next, it was time for the webbing. I used a Sharpie to draw the pattern, being sure to make it as accurate as I could. Normally I do the spider out of foam, but this time I wanted to use puff paint to get a cleaner look. So I drew it on the suit in marker first. These web lines don't have to be perfect since I'll be going over them later with puff paint, but I tried my best to make them even and straight. Definitely my cleanest web pattern so far. I'm gonna roll with this one. But of course, I can't be comfortable forever because now it was time for the most painful and time-consuming part of the costume. That was puff painting everything. I wanted to start with the logo, so I got to work. Thankfully, it wasn't too hard and came out looking perfect. This was the part I wanted to be the most accurate, so I'm glad I was able to do it right. But of course, I'm not just puff painting the emblem, I'm also puff painting each and every web on the costume. I knew from the start I was gonna hate this, but it will most definitely be worth it. At least, I convinced myself it would. I really wanted that extra depth of the webs being slightly raised, so my hands were a sacrifice I was willing to make. Like clockwork, I began painting. It started off pretty good until the bottle just exploded with air and left a big black stain on an empty red section. I panicked and quickly covered it with a red fabric patch. It's not the best solution, but it did its job. With the first major mishap out of the way, I took a big breath in and continued painting. It was at this time that I caught a cold. So while I was coughing up a storm, I used my time to quarantine in my room like a hermit and keep puff painting all day long. The next day I painted the back and the sides off camera like an idiot, and while I was waiting for it to dry, I took my old gloves and gave those a refresh with puff paint so that I could use them on this new suit. After the shirt was all done, it was time for the mask, my favorite part of any Spider-Man suit. I made my paper lens template, once again paying close attention to the way the eyes were drawn by Romita, and then transferred that into my foam rims. Then I cut out some PC fan mesh and headed to the garage to give them a good old spray paint. I made sure to keep a good distance away so that I wouldn't drown the holes I'm supposed to see through. The last time I spray painted something, I thought it would be a great idea to just get up in there super close. What a loser. Anyway, now I know better. After about an hour, they were all dry, and I glued them to the rims and then the mask.
Yeah.
He has suffered so much. You have my gratitude, bald white man. Wait.
I then proceeded to draw my web pattern with a Sharpie just like before, and quickly got to work puff painting. Normally you'd think to puff paint the webs while the mask is on the mannequin, but I found it much more comfortable to just do it with the mask down flat. Wait for that side to dry, and then turn it around and do the other side. Once I waited for it to dry and had both sides painted, I put the mask back on the mannequin to puff paint the line in the middle of the mask. And with that, the mask was all done. Now all that was left was painting the boots. I knew I was in for a long haul with the puff painting, but I had no idea it would take up like 80% of making the suit. Well, there's nothing to it but to do it. So I got to work in the boots and eventually finished the painting. And with that, the suit was finally finished. Thank you so much for watching. I really wanted to get this video out like way before Halloween, but time is weird, so I couldn't. But nonetheless, this was a fun video to make. I'm very proud of my suit, and I will very soon be making a video about all of my Spider-Man suits where I talk about what went into them and what I think of my own work. Coming very soon, stay tuned. Anyway, thank you all for your support, and I will see you in the next video with a big announcement.